My name's Mike Fahey and I work for Taylor's Contracting. Taylor's Contracting was established 50 years ago by Bob and Marlene Taylor around the time when the Forest Service was increasing their plantation forest assets right across the catchment. Harvesting of mature trees was also increasing, so there was a significant amount of earthworks and plant hire going on right around the Tasman Bay region. And as a company, we've had over 50 years servicing the local forestry and rural industries. And we're very proud of the fact that we're returning to a lot of those forests for the second and third rotations. So I've been involved in the civil engineering and forestry business for over 44 years and been observing a lot of the things that the previous speakers have been talking about over that time. And the title of the presentation is the Continuous Improvement Journey, because when I started in forestry, some of the practices that were accepted then, we would go to jail for today. So it is all about learning from the science and learning from the things that are going on, and the community values change as we go along. So we're along for that journey. So now there is a lot going on out in the forest every day. If you listen quietly, you'll probably hear the hum of a lot of those machines working out there, but I think I've skipped a slide actually. So in a typical year, we deliver around 80,000 safe working hours by a team of skilled and competent people. We're really fortunate that we've got a lot of long-term employees at Taylor's that are users of the catchment as well. They hunt, they fish, they dive. So we've got a vested interest in what's going on. Our company provides services for around 1 million tonnes of harvested timber. So it's probably about a little under half of what is harvested in the top of the south. We upgrade or construct about 50 kilometres of road, about 140 processing landings, skid sites and pads are upgraded or constructed. The majority of the sites in the Motuate catchment now are upgrade work. We're moving back into the second rotation. There's still some construction going on, but in the last 30 years there has been a big spike in construction, but that's petering off the second rotation. We maintain about 100 kilometres of trucking road each month. Last year we were involved with the construction of 3 bridges. We've installed about 1,000 water table culverts, and 30 large diameter culverts, and about 100,000 tonnes of gravel is produced for the clients that we work for to put a surface on the road and protect them from erosion. So the culverting and bridging thing is something that has increased significantly since the introduction of the NES, but the major corporate clients have been doing that for a long time. For the last 30 years, they have been really lifting the standard. They were North American companies and they were used to a far tighter regulatory environment. So although they could have worked to a lower standard, if you like, they continue to improve the standard of work, and we were fortunate enough to be involved along that journey, and the science and the better engineering techniques were delivered to great advantage. So just as an example, there's several $1 million in that culverting activity alone, probably closer to $3 million when you add the bridges on. And the relocatable bridges have also been in use for the last over 30 years. But there's a few photos as we go through. We can talk about those as we kick along. So as I said, there's a lot going on out there. Techniques with can continue to improve, like our sediment retention techniques. There's a lot of benching, stripping, containing fill as we go along. We are parked up pretty much whenever it starts raining, parked up before any sediment starts to flow, sites are locked down. So all those things do have an impact as well, have a positive impact on the environment, but they have an impact on cost as well. So wherever we find local gravel sources in the forest, we utilise those as well. I mean, the thing is with improvements in practice, not only is it an environmental improvement, but it's a cost improvement as well. So if we can find sources of material in site, small seams of quality gravel, in that photo on the far right you can see a serpentine seam which is pretty weak and not suitable for construction, but right beside it there's a seam of quality material that can be utilised. So we're also installing a lot of temporary type structures. The bottom left is a box culvert. Forest companies have invested in these culverts and they can put them in the ground. They might be in a particular site for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then they can be taken out and the creek is returned to a ford, and there won't be heavy traffic over it for the next 25 years. A lot of the terrain that we work in is not weak or highly erodible. It's really, really hard. So we have to employ other techniques. We're drilling and blasting. But that sort of in forest rock is also used for protection and erosion controls and so on too. So this is a picture of a new road through a first rotation forest. And this particular road had to be completely end-hauled away, which is an excavator works along a road grade that's planned and marked on site, and they load all the material on the back of a dump truck, and it's taken away and dumped at a stable location. So like traditionally in the past, that stuff would have been all pushed over the side with the bulldozer or an excavator, but now the vast majority of that material is end-hauled away, and that's a significant extra cost as well too. So but the investment that the forest companies are making, and it is an investment, like a roaded forest is far more value than an unroaded forest, and these people the companies are investing in that for the future, and the asset is more valuable than it when they're selling it, they get more for it. So,
because it was separated granite or from a roadable?
No, that was the Eastern Hills, but there's a lot of separation point granite going on as well. So that was actually quite a good material, but there's still a lot of sediment generated from those sort of things, a lot of negative impacts if those things slide off downhill. But well over 30 degrees, probably 38 degrees in that particular case. So it just wasn't good practice to sidecast it. So once the earthworks is done, like sediment sumps, sediment traps, and other controls are employed to try and reduce those initial flushing. So like the instructions to all our operators wherever we can, and sometimes in really steep terrain, it's actually really difficult to have a sediment sump on the side of a hill. It's just not really practical. But wherever we can, we're putting in whatever controls we can. And as I said before, a lot of the guys are right into this because they're hunters, they're fishermen, they're divers, and they have seen firsthand the impacts of sedimentation too. So these are just another examples of sediment sumps. A couple of these photos I've presented other times, and I've been told that they are disgraceful photos. But I actually think they're really good because that sediment would have been flushed out before and flushed into the nearest watercourse. So it's been picked up. It's been the companies are maintaining these on a regular basis. So that's like I know they're larger particles. The suspended sediment is perhaps for another discussion, but so this is going on every day right across the majority of our clients' forest estates and capturing sediment. Different examples of the same sort of thing. I haven't just taken a picture of one sediment trap, and some of these photos will put you to sleep after a while, but we also use silk fence from time to time. I'm personally not a big fan of silk fence, but in our environment it's quite easily damaged and doesn't work that well. Like maintaining good water control, like we often joke with our harvesting colleagues, the first thing they do is they fill the drain that we put at the back of their site, and the water's blocked up and it's going all over the place. But a well-positioned drain, Joe's going to be training people on this afternoon, logs put over the drain so the water can keep flowing in a place where there's water running out of the back of landing really helps. Surface of the land doesn't chop up. Even in a water table situation where there's sediment sumps and some flumes and spear pipe to help run the water. It's another pre-sump ahead of a water table culvert. It's a local gravel put on a surface. Excuse me. Really hard to keep up. Yeah. Sorry. I'm blind as a bat. There we go. Yeah, culverting again. Like it's the number of culverts has increased significantly. probably in the last 10 years. Again, the major companies were doing this before the NES, but and all the major companies in this region are putting in larger size water table culverts than they have to. They've got more resilience with those culverts. Again, on-site rock being used to protect the inlets and outlets of rocks, culverts, sorry. A small sump at the head of a culvert to capture more sediment. This is an operator sent this in with some of his handiwork. He's a bit of an artist, but that's a pretty good looking rock wall. We use drift decks in certain locations. Some catchments are suited to these too because they will flood. The flood can travel over the top of the drift deck. It's well protected with rock. There's good fish passage through that particular site. And the water's clean when the log trucks are running across it. Some sites that are particularly sensitive, we have to go to a higher standard. In this particular case, it was right at the back of Richmond, so this wasn't Reservoir Creek, and we had to go to a higher standard. So some really sensitive sites will go to hydroseeding and the application of other polymers as well to try and contain a piece of particularly erodible soil. Now, there was a couple of sites that these trials were carried out with the polymer, some fertiliser and some seed. It was reasonably successful and certainly helped contain the initial runoff and raindrop penetration. Peter mentioned that after the fire at Pigeon Valley, they applied a glue, which was applied by helicopters as seed mix, fertiliser, and the polymer. And we were also involved in the cleanup after the fire. We worked for Peter's team, put in a lot of sediment sumps, a lot of major sediment sumps on a lot of those dry gullies, but none of those sumps filled up at all, really, to the degree that anybody expected, which was really good. So the work was successful, and the regrowth took off really quickly. There was a lot of reports it was going to be doom and gloom and everybody was going to be covered in soot, but that wasn't the case. It wasn't borne out by the facts. Dust control is important now too, and we apply dust control measures oftentimes in rural roads outside people's houses, and it seems to work really well. We do use a lot of grass seed. A lot of people debate whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I do like it. It really helps with that initial raindrop penetration. And the thing is, we never know when these storms are going to come. This year we're having a reasonable year where we're getting rainfall at regular intervals. It's not really heavy storms, but as other presenters have pointed out, it's those big storms that really have the biggest impact. So the centre photo is, again, some polymer that was trialled. Again, it was a really sensitive site. There was an orchardist stand down below. The timing of that particular operation ran on a little longer than had been hoped for, so the polymer was used, and there was minimal impact on the orchard dam and the downstream values. Same sort of thing, but just different stuff, different soil types and different batters. Maintenance is a big thing. Again, the major companies have got a rolling program where they're going around and maintaining stuff all the time. We're just keeping right on top of it. A lot of the smaller stub roads and side roads are just left to grow over and basically look after themselves, but certainly all the main roads or anything that's really sensitive is monitored and maintained on a regular basis. For a quick fix too, if we need something to happen really quickly, or oftentimes if we're in summer and we're not going to get grass growing, we'll use hay, fine slash as a quick cover, and it's effective. Same sort of thing. We've got while construction's in process, a couple of hay bales just stuck in a water table ahead of some rain on the weekend, and then we've got a hay blower that mulches up big round hay bales and spits it out over the side for a bit of protection. And there's a lot of grass seed in those sorts of bales as well, so that helps. I'm not a real fan of hay bales myself because we've seen them in flood events wash off down a water table and jam nicely into a culvert and then cause more problems. So, but some people like them. Slash management is becoming a huge thing, and we've got a machine that grinds up slash, and it's been used for mulch, for spreading on tracks, for spreading on landings, for spreading on the sides of roads, and also for, obviously looking for biofuel and stuff like that too. There's a tremendous amount of energy in that sort of stuff. So we've got a spreader that spreads that stuff out along different forest roads. What it does is helps reduce the bulk of the fibre in the piles, and taken off around the forest and spread around, adds nutrients back to the forest. We don't do a lot of this, but it's a trial that's being done, and particularly sensitive matters will protect. We found that you can't put it on at all thick. It only has to be on basically the thickness of the bark. You put it on too thick, it retains too much moisture and the stuff slides away. So just another couple of examples of bark off skid sites and a bit of topsoil thrown around quickly onto a surface ahead of rain to protect it. And the raindrop, protecting against raindrop penetration is really important. Once that rilling starts, and then it's just like a gully in miniature. It just starts rilling and getting deeper and deeper and channeling the water, and the erosion just picks up. But the material that's on site, it's cheap, it's cost effective, and if it's used appropriately, it has a good impact. Here's the grinder that grinds up the thing. It's a 1,000 horsepower machine, and it makes a quick work of a lot of slash. Unfortunately, in our region, there's just not quite the market for the biofuel. There's a lot going on in that space, but okay, yeah. So slash management is a major thing. So the companies are spending a huge amount of money on slash management. A lot of them are carting the majority of the slash away to different sites each time, each operation, and very little of it's going over the site. If it is, it's all pulled back and stabilised on the sites with drainage and so on put in place. But these practices have been going on for the last 30 years. It's not something that's just come in because of the NES. The machines after harvest pulling slash back off a temporary bench that's been put on the side of the landing, drainage in place, temporary slash to cover tracks and put in sediment sumps and on the edge of batters, well positioned cut off ahead of rain, good practice, neat tidy jobs, some topsoil lightly spread over the surface before it was grassed, water table controls, rock source on site for rock check dams to slow the water down on the steep gradient road. All culverts have to have flumes, but this was some local material sourced on site that had to be carted away and put at the end of a pipe. Good rubbly rock material reduces erosion. A shot of end walling again on the separation point granite site. There's a little bit of spill that goes over the side. They can't avoid that, but the bulk of that material is end hauled away. You can imagine if all that stuff was thrown over the side that it could migrate downstream. A temporary culvert, a lot of this going on now for skidders to cross and so on, keep the water clean. Box culverts, this is the investment that the companies are making, and they reuse these sorts of things. So a whole lot of good stuff going on. Forward with gravel put on it. Normally that wouldn't have happened. They just would have walked straight through there. There's a bridge for the log trucks, but the heavy machinery still has to walk through the ford. But this is a trout spawning stream, quite sensitive, so gravel on either side and improved practice. Again, the major culverts, that culvert was upgraded and replaced. It had one small culvert. These are two 1200s or 1800s, they might even be. The original culvert was about 900, so significant investment, like a $20,000 investment type of thing by the forest company for that particular crossing. These bridges have been used for the last 30 years. They're relocatable. They shift all around the top of the south, and they're a good thing. And this last photo is a bit unrelated, but it's one of the best photos I think that I've seen. I'm a big fan of the Pereira era, but what it symbolises is that we are being watched. We know we're being watched, and not only by the community, but by the creatures that we share the forest with. So yeah, that's me. Any questions? I'd just like to say I've achieved one of my objectives today. I had an excellent cup of tea, so thank you.
Because Mike will be leaving after this presentation. He won't be part of the second planet.
One thing that we haven't talked about to date is the fact that what should happen with all the sediment is it should flow across the plain. And basically one of the major reasons why we're getting so much sediment out of the bottom is because it's such a When I've been up in forestry, I'm looking through the lens of one of my colleagues. It's always creating plans and things and re-engaging the overflow plains. I've seen quite a lot of opportunities where there are sort of gullies and flatter areas where the streams are flowing, where you could actually quite easily and cheaply re-engage the plains and the sediment could accumulate on there before going out in high flows. How much scope do you think are you seeing with that sort of thing in the forestry? Big main.
Well, there is a lot of talk around that sort of thing there. Dan will be able to comment too, but they're like returning some of those plains to their natural state. Like if you're a farmer, you don't really want to see that happen because that's not going to advance your business. But again, the percentage of land that's available for forest companies is actually really small because a lot of the forests were planted on land that wasn't economically suitable for farming, so forest companies have planted up. So